Join me as we sew the log cabin quilt block. And you could make this block 3 or 4 more times, maybe 5 if you really want to get so crazy, and you could make a table topper. But first, let's make a block together right now. Hi, if we haven't met before, I am Emily from Quilting Your Legacy, and we are going to make the log cabin block together right now. Let's sew. To make our log cabin block, we need to know which of our fabrics are going to go where. So that is why I created our sticky note system so that we know which fabrics are going to go to which letter. Our center fabric, which is going to be in the center of the log cabin, is going to be a 4.5 inch square. That is going to be our second fabric to go onto our center square is going to be the letter A. Our second fabric is going to be B. I'm going to just go ahead and put these up here. Our third fabric is going to be C. Our next fabric is going to be D. So it'll go A, B, C, D. And then we have the letter E. I'm going to slide the center over here so that we can see how it's going to look just as a little bit more of a visual. We've got A, B, C, D, and then E. So let's go ahead and start cutting out our fabrics now. We are first going to start with our fabric A. I use the Olaf rotary cutter. I love it. And then I am also using the Creative Grid ruler, the 2.5 inch ruler. So this particular ruler is perfect because I will be using 2.5 inch strips to cut out my pieces. So this particular ruler again is 2.5 inches by 18.5 inches. I love it. So in the show notes, you will know how to cut out your pattern block. So I'm going to go ahead and just cut off the selvage just like so. Our first for fabric A, we will be cutting out a 4.5 inch by 2.5 inch block, and then we will be cutting a 12.5 inch block by 2.5 inches. So let's first go ahead and cut our 4.5 inches. So what I'm going to do is, again, because this ruler is 2.5 inches and my fabric is 2.5 inches, this ruler is absolutely brilliant. My first cut is going to be 4.5 inches. We see it right here. Open up my rotary cutter, zip stop. There we go. So we're going to set this to the side. I am going to place my A right on top of it so that I do not forget. And then our second cut is going to be 12.5 inches. So again, we are cutting our 12.5 inches now. So going all the way down, making sure that this is flush right on the fabric. Since we know this is correct, I am putting a little pressure and then just using my rotary cutter. Bada bing. So I'm going to go ahead and place my 12.5 inch right on top of my 4.5 inch, and then fabric A is complete. Next, we are on to fabric B. For fabric B and for fabric C, we need to cut both of these the exact same way. So I am going to go ahead and add them together. I'm opening up the strip, the selvage towards the right hand side, so that I can cut it. Putting the fabrics right on top of each other. We're going to go ahead and cut off the selvage like so. Now, keeping our fabrics together, because again, we will be cutting B and C the exact same way. So I'm going to keep my strips right on top of each other. And we are going to cut this once at 6.5 inches, adding my ruler right on top. We've got our 6.5 inches right here. Slide that over just a smidge. We've got our fabric nice and flush. Again, rotary cutter. Bada bing. So let's go ahead and put our sticky notes right on back of our fabrics. Okay, so that is going to be B. This is A. This is C. Okay, so we've got C and B. Our sticky notes, we'll put those right to the side. And then we can set our fabric to the side as well. So for D and E, we're going to do that exact step again, where we're going to put our pieces right on top of each other. So I'm going to take my sticky notes right down to the side here. We are first going to cut our selvages. And again, the pattern is right in the show notes. That way you know exactly what you need to do and how to do it. Ruler to cut off the selvage. Okay, so now we have our fabric pieces right on top of each other, because for D and E, we need to cut these at 8.5 inches. So setting our ruler 8.5 inches. And I'm going to set that right up to the side. And then we need to do that exact step again, but we will be cutting 10.5 inches. Laying the fabrics right on top of each other. Putting the ruler right on top. And there we go. So now we have our 10.5 inches. And then of course our center is going to be F. Let's just have fun building the block before we start sewing. So we've got fabric F. Then we are going to add our fabric A, which will go onto the right hand side. Then we've got our fabric B, which will go on the bottom. Then we have fabric C, which is going to go on the left hand side. Then we have our fabric D, which is going to go on top. Then we have our fabric E, which is going to go right onto the right hand side. Oops, looks like I'm gonna have to move the camera. Okay, so now that our camera is a little bit higher, we've got E right here. Next, we are going to add, and we're gonna add D back, which will go towards the bottom. So that's D again. And then we're gonna add E, and then last but certainly not least will be our letter A, which will go right on top again. Let's go ahead and start sewing this now. Okay, so now that we have our letter A now sewn on to F, and I did just quickly press it. I am a super presser. Okay, so now we've got A on, I'm just gonna move A up here since we know that that is A. I'm gonna move F to the side. So next we are going to sew, and when we sew B, we are gonna place our fabrics right sides together. Let's go ahead and sew. Going to sew 1/4 inch going all the way down. Let's go ahead and iron this, and then we will get ready to grab our next piece. Okay, and if you are a super presser like myself, keep in mind that when you are pressing, that you're pressing away from the center. So let's go ahead and add our fabrics back. So now we've got our F, we've got A, we've got B. Next, we are going to go ahead and add C. So when we sew C, we're just going to place the fabrics right on top. And let's go ahead and get back to sewing. Fabric right sides together, 1/4 inch. Let's go ahead and press our seams again. So when you press your seams, just make sure that they are going in the opposite direction away from the center block. So placing our fabrics back, we now know that we need to sew D. I'm going to pick up the letter and I'm going to put it right down here since we know that that is fabric D. We are going to place our fabrics right on top of each other, right sides together, and let's sew again. Did press my seams and I pressed them away from the center fabric. We've got our center, we've got A, B, C, D. Now we are going to add E, which looks like I've got them mixed up. So E is going to go over here and that is going to be E there. Same fabric, just wrong placement. Okay, so here we go. We are going to sew E right on. So taking our fabrics, right sides together, let's go back to sewing. Now that we've got E sewn on, we are going to go ahead and sew on D. We've got our block really coming together. Again, here's the back side of it. Again, all of my seams are pointing away. So here we go. Next, we are going to sew E going right here. And then our final step will be sewing on A. Let's go ahead and sew E right sides together. Let's go ahead and press again to sew our final stitch. Yay! Okay, here we go, everybody. Final stitch on, and that is going to be A right on top. So here we go. We'll take the letter A off, place our fabric right sides together. Okay, so the block is now complete, quilting friends. I love this so very much. So just to see the back side of it, here's our back side here. And of course, keeping in mind, press your seams all going towards the outer of the center. So all of my seams are pressing away. And again, here is your quilt block here. Thank you so much for sewing the log cabin block. This would make an amazing table topper. So you could make 4 or 5 more of these quilt blocks. Or if you want a short table topper, then just use 3 of these quilt blocks. And of course, if you love quilting table toppers, you should join the Quilting Your Legacy monthly table topper club. That's where we meet once a month on the first Sunday of the month at 10 a.m. and we sew a different table topper together. You could make it for yourself or for one of your favorite people because we are quilting our legacies intentionally. Thank you so much for joining How to Make the Log Cabin Block. I look forward to sewing with you very soon.